The Holy Roman Empire by the 15th century is broken up into hundreds of little duchies. When you think of the medieval period and tons of little groups that are sometimes unified and sometimes not, you're frequently thinking of what is today Germany, or at the time basically the Holy Roman Empire. But we're going to look at their sculpture and a man by the name of Riemenschneider. Now he creates a piece called the Assumption of the Virgin, and this is a massive wooden altarpiece. Now on the left you see the whole altarpiece. On the right is the piece we're focusing on, which is the central piece of this altarpiece, and this is all carved out of wood. Now he's carving it out of wood because that is the material that is available to them. That's what he would have been familiar with. Whereas in Italy, you don't have a lot of wood, so they tend to use stone. They're also trying to mimic the Greeks and the Romans, which they're surrounded by that material. Whereas in Northern Europe, you're not seeing that. You don't have as much Greek and Roman sculpture being discovered in Germany. After all, for the Romans, that would have been a frontier. It's not where you ship your best artwork. And what we see in this piece is an endless restlessness within the garments, which seem to set the piece in motion. It gives us a sense of energy, passion, or ecstasy. The bodies themselves are lost in the movement of the robes. Again, very similar to Klaus Schluter and the Well of Moses that we looked at earlier. What you see are bodies that are lost in the clothing. The fabric is actually more emotive here than the body itself. It's as if the body has been lost. The robes do not describe the body. Rather, they act as an independent design element. So the bodies aren't terribly important, but look at what he's doing. The Assumption of Mary is not about the human form. It's about a spiritual idea, the Assumption of Mary into heaven. Now, there's the Ascension, which is Jesus going into heaven, and there's the Assumption, which is Mary going into heaven. Mary and Jesus being the only two people who exist, body and soul, in heaven. And so this is highly spiritual. So, of course, we're going to depict it focusing on that and really focusing on the spiritual energy that would overwhelm anyone who would have been witness to it, and hopefully overwhelms the viewer who's looking at it. So what you're seeing is a psychic strain that's heightened the spirituality of the figures. And it differs from the Italians in a number of ways, not just the materials, but also the use of the human form. The human form isn't terribly important. Even when we look at Mary, we see maybe the head is a little out of proportion to the size of the body, but to the artist here, it doesn't really matter. It's about the emotion. It's about the spiritual element that is being witnessed here and trying to make it real for the viewer, trying to give the viewer a small taste of the ecstasy that those